On a spring morning, soft sunlight streamed through the windows as a baby's cries echoed through the kitchen of the Wilson residence in the upscale neighborhood of Greenwich, Connecticut. Their two-story white mansion stood as one of the most beautiful homes in the area. There, Michael. Here's your delicious milk," Linda Wilson cooed, cradling her 6-month-old son in one arm while checking the milk's temperature with her other hand. Her fingers, accustomed to precise measurements in the laboratory, carefully gauged the perfect temperature for her baby. Her shoulder-length brown hair, which gave her an intellectual appearance, fell neatly despite the morning rush. The modern, predominantly white kitchen was already set for breakfast. The inviting morning air was filled with the aroma of toasted bread, the vibrant colors of fresh fruit, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee. "What time do you think you'll be home today?" Linda casually asked her husband Brian, who was reading the newspaper at the counter. Dressed in an expensive suit, Brian lifted his coffee cup to his lips before answering. His well-groomed appearance and short blonde hair exuded the air of a successful young businessman. Probably around 9. We've got a big project deadline coming up." "Late again." Linda sighed softly. "Michael will be asleep by then." In her arms, the baby had contentedly closed his eyes. His chubby cheeks moved slightly as he breathed peacefully. He wore a light blue onesie, a designer brand chosen by Patricia. At 8 a.m., Linda was walking through the neighborhood, pushing the stroller. New buds were beginning to sprout on the trees, announcing spring's arrival. In her sophisticated black and white dress that reflected her intellectual style, she was quite unique in this neighborhood. While balancing her role as a senior researcher at a major pharmaceutical company with motherhood wasn't easy, she cherished these morning moments. Sunlight filtering through the street trees illuminated the meticulously maintained lawns. The mansions lining both sides of the street showcased refined architectural designs. "Good morning, Linda." Neighboring housewives called out to her one after another. In their jogging attire, their gazes held a subtle hint of discomfort toward Linda, who worked outside the home. Career mothers were a minority in this affluent suburban neighborhood. Still, she took pride in her choices. At 2 p.m., the doorbell rang. Behind the solid wooden door stood their regular visitor. "Hello, Linda." Patricia's gentle voice resonated. With her neatly styled gray hair and wearing casual but luxury brand clothing, she came for her twice-weekly childcare support. Her demeanor reflected her 30-year career as a head nurse. "Oh my, isn't Michael dressed too lightly? Won't he be cold?" As soon as she entered, Patricia began checking her grandson's clothing. Her gaze held a sharpness that missed nothing. "It's fine. I've checked the room temperature. In my experience, this time of year requires warmer clothing." Linda swallowed her words. Her mother-in-law, with 30 years of experience as a head nurse, couldn't help but point out even the smallest details. Her words often contained subtle criticism of the new mother. That night, Linda confronted Brian in their bedroom. Her husband, changed into silk pajamas, listened to his wife's words with visible fatigue. "Don't you think your mother's been a bit too involved lately?" Linda chose her words carefully. Mom's just worried. She has lots of experience. Brian's response was always the same. His voice carried a slight irritation at having his mother's dependency pointed out. Linda let the matter drop. There was no point in trying to convince her husband, who always took his mother's side. Late at night, Linda sat at her desk and opened her diary. Her hand trembled slightly as she held the pen. In the quiet of her study, her anxieties began to take shape. Is she really thinking about Michael's best interests? In Linda's mind, her vague concerns were gradually taking on more concrete form. One Saturday morning, Linda was sterilizing a newly purchased high-end baby bottle. She had spent weeks researching to select this product, made with medical-grade materials and best suited for baby's health. Suddenly, Patricia's voice rang out behind her. "Oh dear, this bottle won't do at all." As usual, her mother-in-law had arrived unannounced. Dressed in an elegant navy dress, Patricia had already disabled the security code and entered the house. "This is a top-brand product with medical-grade materials." As Linda began to explain, Patricia waved her hand dismissively. "The ones I used were safer. Brian grew up healthy using them." Speaking thus, Patricia swiftly cleared away the expensive bottle and took out an old-fashioned one she had brought. Anger swelled in Linda's chest, but her expression remained calm. The self-control she had cultivated as a researcher kept her emotions in check. "Mother, our parenting approach. Oh dear, there's no single right way to raise children. But experience matters." Behind Patricia's smile lurked a slightly triumphant expression. Weekend plans also crumbled under Patricia's sudden visits. The family zoo trip that Linda and Brian had planned was cancelled with one comment from the mother-in-law: "It's too cold this time of year." Instead, they adopted Patricia's suggestion for indoor activities. No one could oppose the atmosphere created by her "since I'm here already" attitude. In the evening, Linda observed her mother-in-law while preparing dinner in the kitchen. Patricia was preparing Michael's baby food in the living room as if she were the lady of the house. "This is much too early." Patricia frowned at the baby food menu Linda had prepared. But the pediatrician said, "This is how we did it with Brian." A mother's intuition is important too. Linda felt the sharp sting of the implied criticism: "You lack a mother's intuition." Her expertise as a medical researcher meant nothing here. Everything was invalidated in the face of Patricia's experience. Social media made things worse. One day, Linda received a message from a friend. Patricia had been posting numerous photos of Michael. "I asked you to be mindful about posting baby pictures." That night, when alone with Brian, Linda brought it up quietly. "Mom just wants to show off her grandson's growth." Brian's words were tinged with exhaustion. "You're being too sensitive." "Mom is." "Mom, Mom, always Mom." Linda's emotions finally reached their limit. "This is about our family. Why does your mother's opinion always come first?" "Mom is thinking about what's best for us." Brian's words now sounded like mere excuses. A few days later, Brian came home unusually early, and they had plans for dinner together. Michael was to be left with a trusted babysitter. It's been so long since we've had time alone. Linda's heart swelled with anticipation. However, 30 minutes before their departure, Patricia appeared, claiming an urgent matter. "Oh, eating out is such a waste. I'll make you my special dinner." Saying this, Patricia headed to the kitchen with shopping bags. "Mom's cooking is the best." Brian's face lit up with joy. Linda stood frozen. Her husband happily accepted his mother's suggestion and was already calling to cancel their restaurant reservation. They were instantly swept up in her mother-in-law's pace. That night, Linda secluded herself in her study. Important research project documents lay spread before her. She slumped over her desk with a deep sigh. For the next week, she needed to work on weekends to analyze crucial clinical trial data. During that time, she would have to entrust Michael's care to Patricia. "Is this really okay?" Her questioning voice echoed emptily in the dark study. The next day, Linda returned home early from the research facility. The crucial data analysis had progressed better than expected, allowing her to finish 2 hours ahead of schedule. As spring sunshine brightly lit the streets, her car moved through the quiet lanes of the upscale neighborhood. "Michael will be so happy." Murmuring this, she glanced at the small blue paper bag on the passenger seat. Inside was a new toy she had chosen for her son, an educational toy designed based on developmental psychology, purchased despite Patricia's objections. As she parked in front of the house, she sensed something was different. No one was in the garden. Usually at this time, Patricia would have Michael in the stroller, giving him a sun bath. On her way to the entrance, Linda stopped. The welcome mat was slightly askew. Patricia, being such a perfectionist, would always straighten it. Shoes were carelessly discarded. "I'm home." Linda's voice was absorbed into the unnaturally quiet house. A chilling anxiety enveloped her entire body. "Mother? Michael?" No response. When she opened the living room door, Linda's heart nearly stopped. On the expensive beige sofa lay Michael, completely limp. His face was pale, with faint breathing sounds escaping from his slightly parted lips. His body was cold, and his pupils were abnormally constricted. Patricia sat slumped beside the sofa. Her luxury brand dress was wrinkled, and her usually perfectly styled hair was disheveled. "He was fine until just a moment ago." Patricia's voice sounded hollow, as if coming from far away. Her expression mixed confusion with something else. "What happened?" Linda's cry tore through the silence. "I don't know either." Patricia avoided eye contact. Her hands trembled slightly. Linda took out her smartphone and dialed emergency services without hesitation. 6-month-old male, semiconscious, weak breathing, decreased body temperature. "Please send an ambulance immediately." Linda's voice had regained its composure. She proceeded to check Michael's pulse and breathing, beginning necessary first aid. Throughout this, Patricia remained sitting in the same spot. The composure of her former head nurse persona was nowhere to be seen. Soon, sirens approached. paramedics quickly entered the room. The stretcher wheels squeaked against the luxury marble floor. Medical equipment was efficiently attached to Michael's tiny body. The regular beeping of monitors broke the eerie silence. "Please explain the situation in detail," a paramedic questioned Linda. "I found him in this condition when I returned from work." Linda quickly explained the situation. Her eyes never left Michael. "Did you give the child any medication?" This time the question was directed at Patricia, who only shook her head. The ambulance transport began. In the cramped space of the vehicle, Linda held Michael's tiny hand. Patricia had insisted on riding along, but faced with Linda's icy stare, she ended up following in a separate car. Greenwich General Hospital Pediatric Emergency. Radio contact was made with the hospital. The sirens blared again as the ambulance sped through the spring afternoon streets. After arriving at the hospital, Michael was immediately taken to the emergency treatment room. Doctors and nurses in white coats entered the treatment room one after another. "Dr. Thompson will be here shortly." Linda nodded slightly at the nurse's words. Dr. Thompson was known as one of the top pediatricians in the area. 15 minutes later, Dr. Thompson emerged from the treatment room with blood test results. His expression carried an unmistakable severity. "We need to call the police." The doctor's voice echoed through the emergency room hallway. "What? What do you mean?" Linda's voice trembled. "Sleeping medication was detected in your child's blood." Those words hung heavily in the air, mixed with the scent of hospital disinfectant. At that moment, Patricia appeared at the far end of the hallway. As she heard the doctor's words, the color drained from her face. Then, in the next instant, she turned on her heel and ran. "Stop her!" At Dr. Thompson's command, security guards quickly moved into action. The figure of the mother-in-law in her white coat disappeared down the long hospital corridor. In the Greenwich Police Station interrogation room, Detective Morris sat across from Patricia Wilson. The detective's deep brown eyes held the keen observational skills of a veteran police officer. "Please tell me again, in detail, about today's events." Detective Morris's voice was intentionally kept soft. Patricia remained elegantly dressed, but her posture lacked its usual dignity. Her luxury brand dress was wrinkled, and her hands trembled slightly. "I went to Linda's house at 10 a.m. as usual." Patricia's voice was hoarse. "And then I took care of Michael during his nap time." Her words trailed off. "Please tell me the specific times and actions." The detective's voice grew slightly firmer. Meanwhile, in the hospital waiting room, Linda was responding to police questioning. Though her voice maintained its composure, her fingertips wouldn't stop trembling. Patricia helped with childcare twice a week regularly. Linda's explanation was clear and logical. Had there been any recent changes? Yes, her interference had been increasing. Linda explained the events in chronological order. Police investigation discovered powdered sleeping medication among Patricia's belongings. At the bottom of her luxury brand handbag, white tablets had been finely crushed and placed in a small plastic bag. More decisive evidence was found on the hospital's security cameras. 3 days earlier, footage showed Patricia purchasing something at the hospital pharmacy. Later, she was captured crushing tablets in a secluded area behind the building. This was a premeditated crime. Detective Morris muttered while examining the evidence. Analysis of Patricia's mobile phone revealed even more shocking facts. Her memo app contained detailed plans. Little by little, so as not to raise suspicion. Each recorded word told the story of her twisted planning. Back in the interrogation room, Detective Morris laid out these pieces of evidence before Patricia. The elderly suspect completely broke down at the sight. "She was trying to take my son away from me." Patricia's voice trembled softly. "So you drugged the baby?" The detective's voice contained barely suppressed anger. "Little by little, she was trying to destroy the family, if I could prove that Linda couldn't take care of Michael while working." The confession continued with twisted logic. Meanwhile, at the hospital, new facts had come to light. Detailed examination of Michael's past blood tests revealed multiple instances of small amounts of sleeping medication. However, the quantities had been so minimal that they had gone unnoticed until now. By nightfall, Brian had rushed to the hospital. His face was pale. "How's Michael?" His voice trembled with anxiety. "Don't worry. He's recovering well with proper treatment." Brian let out a deep sigh at Dr. Thompson's words. However, his relief didn't last long. When the police informed him of the case details, Brian's expression froze. "Mother, did this?" He was at a loss for words in the face of this unbelievable reality. In the hospital hallway, Brian faced his mother. Patricia was accompanied by police officers, in handcuffs. Her appearance bore no trace of her former dignity as head nurse. "Brian." "No. It was for you." Patricia tried to approach her son. "I'm cutting ties with you, Mother. You tried to kill my son." Brian's voice was surprisingly calm. "It was for your happiness. Goodbye. This is the last time." Brian turned his back and walked toward the hospital room. His demeanor suggested he would never look back. In the court's emergency office, Prosecutor Jennifer Clark explained the case overview. The defendant administered sleeping medication to her 6-month-old grandson multiple times. "We plan to charge her with attempted murder and child abuse." Patricia sat small beside her lawyer. Her former arrogant attitude was gone, reduced to just an elderly woman who had committed a crime. New facts emerged about Patricia's past. During her 30-year career as head nurse, there had been several reports of problematic behavior. Her excessive need for control and perfectionist personality had been noted before. "Why did you feel the need to go this far?" To Detective Morris's question, Patricia answered after a long silence. "My life was only the hospital and family. Brian was my pride, his wife, with her career, stealing my son." Her distorted maternal instincts had driven her to this point. The next morning, the incident was reported in local media. The headline, "Former Head Nurse's Shocking Attempted Murder of Grandson," shook this wealthy suburban town. The prosecution built up Patricia's charges in detail. Premeditation, repetition, abuse of professional knowledge. There was little room for leniency. Brian and Linda discussed their future life while watching over Michael's recovery. "Mother needs to pay for what she did." Brian's voice carried determination. "Yes, but let's look forward, for Michael's sake." Linda gently held her husband's hand. Outside the window, spring rain began to fall quietly. It seemed to herald the beginning of a new chapter for this family. 1 year later, a peaceful spring had returned to Greenwich. Cherry blossoms were in full bloom in the Wilson family's garden. Under the dappled sunlight, 18-month-old Michael played, his adorable voice ringing out. "Michael, careful over there." Linda's voice echoed gently. Her expression now held a calm confidence that hadn't been there before. After the incident, she began receiving invitations to speak about balancing work and motherhood. From this experience, she started a support group for working mothers, which garnered much sympathy and support. "Mama." Linda smiled at Michael's voice. The terror of that day had certainly left deep scars on her heart. However, those scars now made her stronger. Brian had changed significantly too. Once solely focused on work, he now treasured time with his family. He spent every weekend with them, watching Michael grow together. "Shall we go to the zoo today?" On a holiday morning, Brian suggested while holding Michael. He who once prioritized his mother's opinions above all else now created family time of his own volition. Meanwhile, Patricia's life in prison took an unexpected turn. Sentenced to 8 years in prison, she gradually changed during her incarceration. In the prison's rehabilitation program, Patricia received psychological counseling. Through this process, she began confronting the root of her controlling nature. "My love had become mixed with a need to control." Patricia spoke quietly in the counseling room. With her increased gray hair, she showed no trace of her former arrogance. In prison, she began helping with other inmates' health care. Her work was sincere, earning trust from many staff members. "Your experience can surely help others." Patricia nodded slightly at her counselor's words. Then one day, a letter arrived for Linda. It was Patricia's first letter. "Dear Linda, it took me a very long time to write this letter." The letter detailed her distorted love and deep regret for the irreparable mistake it had caused. "I know that I can never fully atone for the harm I've caused Michael and your family, even if I spent my entire life trying. All I can do now is face my mistakes and try to change myself for the better, even if just a little." Linda held the letter in her hands for a while. "What will you do?" Brian gently asked. "I think I'll write back." Brian nodded silently at Linda's decision. Her reply was brief. "It will take time for me to forgive you. But I want to believe in your change." That night, Linda opened her diary in her study. Outside the window, spring breeze was scattering cherry blossom petals. "Today, I read Patricia's first letter. The hatred and anger haven't disappeared yet. But strangely, my heart feels a little lighter. Michael grows every day, and our family bonds are deepening. This experience has taught us many things. Perhaps there's no such thing as a perfect family. But if we have the heart to care for and try to understand each other, we can move forward, even if just a little at a time. We'll surely face various obstacles ahead. But I'm not afraid anymore. I believe this family can overcome any difficulty. Soft breathing sounds could be heard from Michael's bedroom. Linda closed her diary and headed to her son's room. She gently stroked Michael's cheek as he slept in his bed. The spring moonlight softly illuminated his peaceful sleeping face. "Good night, Michael." Those words carried endless love and certain hope for the future. A new seasonal wind gently rustled the street trees' leaves. It seemed to announce the beginning of a new chapter for this family. By the prison window, Patricia too looked up at the same moon. In her hand, she held a draft of her next letter. "Atoning for my sins and being of use to others. That is the mission for my remaining life." The clock hands moved quietly, announcing the beginning of a new day. In their respective places, in their respective ways, life was surely moving forward. In the spring night sky, the full moon shone quietly.